SOSG, 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 standing on solid ground. Hello, this is Kim with Standing on Solid Ground. I am your host of this motivational and inspirational podcast, and today I want to talk about what is pain. We all can associate pain physically, but there's also mental, emotional, and psychological pains. Now, they may all, in some form or another, intertwine with one another, but yet they have very specific realities to so many different people. That mental pain, something that is playing in the mind all the time, that is causing you to recall painful words, a traumatic experience, just awful things that have concurred in your life that you are trying to get rid of, but it has a way of coming back and haunting you or attacking you. And that can play also in that psychological part of it as well. Then all of us at one point or another can relate to physical pain, stomach aches, headaches, foot hurts, smashing the finger, scraping your knee. Those are those physical pains. But there are also pains that people can't see. Those pains that is hard to describe to someone. That when you go to a doctor's office, and I know years ago they used to ask you, okay, where does it hurt? But now they ask you, what brings you in today? It's a totally different aspect. But at any event, we all have been asked, what's hurting you? In so many words. What's bothering you? And I do recall that even when my father was in pain, he couldn't describe the pain. So doctors really didn't know where to actually look. All he could say, he feel a pull or he feels something uncomfortable in his stomach, but he could not really articulate to them what exactly was wrong. And it bothers me even today that he would not allow me to go to the doctor with him, that I may not be able to describe the pain, and I may not be able to tell the doctors exactly what's wrong, but I could say, can you all just look at his stomach? Because he's been griping about his stomach hurting for quite some time. And it's more than just a little stomach ache or upset stomach or indigestion. There is something definitely wrong, but he would not allow me to go with him because he felt like he's a grown man. He could take care of himself. But those pains are sometimes difficult to explain. When a baby is fussy, the first thing you want to associate with that cry is either their mouth hurt or their stomach is hurting. Because if they smash their little fingers, or if they ran into a wall, or if they fell on the ground and scraped their knee, these are physical pains that we can see. But those indescribable feelings that we can only associate with a certain cry. Their ears might be hurting. Their throat might be hurting. Their tummy. I remember my youngest child, when he was in so much pain, and I'm thinking it was a flu. I didn't realize he had strep throat. And I felt so bad. I took him to the doctor, and they said, oh, he has strep throat. And I'm like, oh, wow. Well, another time he was sick and he was lounging around on the floor, and I couldn't understand it, so I took him to the doctor, and they said he had a viral infection. There are times when people don't know how to describe what they're feeling. They just know that they don't feel well. Then you have those emotional feelings that pain that you just can't associate. And usually depression is a part of that group, where you know that it's something wrong, but you don't know why it's wrong with you. If that makes any sense. You don't know why you're struggling with this, but you know that something is wrong with you. And that particular type of pain is usually discouragement. It's usually that part of your life where you're angry and you don't know why you're angry. You don't know how to express your anger. That inbound anger that is hard to come out. You're frustrated with everything and with everybody, but you don't know why. You don't know how to get those feelings out on the table. And then sometimes it's not that you don't know how, but the other people that you're angry with or frustrated with, they don't listen. They predict what you're about to say, but they don't listen to what you're going to say. They don't listen to your pain. And that pain is so deep that you are so quick to think that you already know how to analyze or diagnose what they're trying to tell you. But you didn't listen to the whole conversation. Listening is a very essential tool when it comes to people in pain, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual. If we don't listen, we cannot help. And it's not just telling the person and then they tell you what's going on with them. It is about telling whoever it is that you're talking to, and then for them to basically tell you exactly what you told them. To let that person know, I'm listening to you. I hear you. Let's see what we can do to fix that. We are too quick to want to resolve the problem, that we don't want to take the time to find out what the problem is. We don't want to take the time to diagnose what's wrong. I watch a lot of airplane disasters. I love air disasters. And I watch these shows because I'm learning something. I'm learning that just how delicate things are. An airplane can tell you it's something wrong with it, and it doesn't speak. It can tell you something when they all of a sudden take dives and you don't understand why that plane dipped. It can tell you something is wrong when bells and whistles are going off. Or when you're trying to tell it to do one thing, it's doing something else. The plane is telling you it's something wrong. Or when the engines just all of a sudden stop working. You definitely know there's something wrong. And this is a machine that does not talk, not physically talk to you, but it can tell you something is wrong. And then a lot of times, the plane can tell you the wrong thing. That means that there is other issues within that build that's wrong. And I saw also where shortcuts were taken, where the wrong screws were put in, where blades have fractions in them, in the fan blades, there were fractions. And no one detected these fractions. Or they told them that there was something wrong and they did a quick patch job, but they didn't go in and diagnose what was going on. They just removed something and patched it up and kept it moving. But the plane crashed. And what happens is, and I love how the investigators go in and they break it down. I mean, they scrutinize everything because they want to know what happened, that this does not happen again. I didn't realize that so many planes fell out of the sky, crashed. I hear about them every now and again. But when you watch a show that has 17 seasons, you realize that there are more planes falling out of the sky. And I'm not afraid of flying. I'm not going to be afraid of flying. I've flown before. But I never knew how critical these things can be. And how much of a life-changing event this can happen. That the pain for some of the survivors are long-term. There are those that will never fly again. There are those that have those emotional attachments to the trauma of what happened to them. That pain. It's not just a physical pain from the scratches and cuts, broken bones that they suffer. But it's an emotional and a psychological and a mental pain that goes along with that money cannot take away. It doesn't even ease the pain. It just satisfies the needs for those individuals at that time. But it does not fix the fact that it happened. And that's something that I've heard most of them say they had nightmares about. That they could not sleep. That some had been admitted to getting help because it was such a traumatizing thing. These pains are real. A lot of people may think that this is not normal. That because you don't see the pain, they're not in pain. And this is where many mistakes come along. Again, I explained to you in a previous episode, I had a doctor tell me I was faking. Now, she could see that I was not walking well. She can see that I was struggling. But again, she told me I was faking. It took a neurosurgeon to do an x-ray of my neck to find out what the problem was. And then she recanted her words by saying, well, I wouldn't wish that up on anybody. That is a horrible thing to say to a patient. It really is. That they've been given a diagnosis that will change their life. That this is emotional, it's a psychological, it's a mental, and a physical issue that this individual is going to be facing for the rest of their life. And that's the best that you can do. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. But previous appointments that I attended, you told me I was faking. And that hurt. That was painful. That messed up my psychological aspect for many days. And I still remember it even today, as though it was yesterday. That is still painful. She never apologized for that. She never acknowledged that she was wrong for saying what she said. Never. And that bothers me even today. So when we talk about pain, pain can be a short term, which is acute, or long term, which is chronic. I don't allow it to disrupt my life. But those little stick pins hurt. And it's traumatizing. Because that puts in your mind that all doctors are going to feel that way towards you. That every time you come in for something, they're going to automatically assume that's something you're faking. That it's not anything wrong with you. That you're just faking. That's the mental part of this. That pain. She started the ball rolling, and in my mind, and I know it's not true because I've had great doctors that have tended to me. But that part in my mind will never go away because that's something she told me. And that was painful. And it's still painful even today. But I keep asking God to help me through this because that was uncalled for. Then I'm looking at a series that is coming on, The Color of Care. And you know, this is reality. This is reality. This is not something made up. Care is a crucial thing. It doesn't matter what level, whether you have to go see a psychiatrist or a psychologist, whether you have to see a therapist or a physical doctor, what they call a primary doctor. On each level, somebody is caring for you. And you don't want it to be because of the color of your skin or your race or nationality is the reasons why they will and won't care for you. The price of pain is why it is so essential for us to have a connection with God. That connection with God will bridge that gap. That what doctors may have done before, he gives them a color, he makes them colorblind, so to speak, and make them pay attention to the need of that individual. See, that's what God does on the back end. Now, there are those that have the Pharaoh heart, but I'm just not going to work on anybody except my own color. There are those that are going to be like that, and God is not going to send you that way. God is not going to send you somewhere where you won't be cared for. You might be turned down multiple times, and you may be turned away for your pain, whatever pain it may be. But God will never turn you away. That's the bottom line. He'll never turn you away. He'll never tell you, I can't help you, or you'll have to go to another doctor. I've been turned away. I remember when my son needed medical treatment for his ears, and we were turned away by 3 different places. We were turned away. But God said, keep going. Don't stop. And we kept going until we found somebody to tend to his need. Yeah, we were turned away. It's real. Now, all we were going for was someone to look at his ears. Can you imagine if it was something more critical? But if it was something more critical, I would be taking him to a hospital. The whole point is this. We cannot be without God on any level of our lives. We cannot afford to not have God in our lives. that even those that may have a hard heart against people, God has a way of making them colorblind and only see the pain. It doesn't matter what pain it is, emotional, mental, psychological, physical. It doesn't matter. Even spiritual. There's spiritual pain. But that spiritual pain, see, God has that covered. He has it covered. We just have to learn how to go to Him in that pain. Don't look at everything as a failure. God is the greatest God of all times. That a woman with the issue of blood could not be treated by doctors. She went to doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor. They took all her money, but they couldn't help her. And she said, if I can just touch the hem of His garment, I will be made whole. All it took was Jesus walking through. And she fought her way through until she was able to reach the hem of His garment. And when she got to Him and she touched Him, Jesus said, "Whoo, who touched me?" Now the disciples is looking at it in the physical realm, saying, "Lord, can't you see all these people around us? There's so many people around us, anybody could have touched you." But He said, "I felt a healing virtue leave from me." In other words, we can go to so many doctors to get help. But there's one doctor that's always on call whenever we need him. We can go to doctors and they can't help us. There's nothing that they can do to help us. If you think about those individuals that had cancer, and they say, all we can do is make them comfortable. That's not it. That's the limitations of what they can do. But it will be up to God if He wants to touch them and make them whole. It's up to God at that point. Just like that little woman going to the doctors. For 12 years she had this issue. All we have to do is get to the point of saying, if I can just touch the hem of His garment. And you know what that means? That means you have to fight your way through the storm. You have to fight your way through the crowd. You have to crawl your way through. You can't give up. And you have to find the hem of His garment. People might have been stepping on her. They may have smashed her fingers. They may have tripped over or kicked her. She might have been all bruised up by the time she got to him. But she was determined. And she fought her way through. What is pain? It can be on any level. But you know what? With Jesus, you only have to take one dose. And His side effects is love, peace, joy, happiness, strength, healing. That's His side effects. You take that one pill and you know that God is with you. This is Kim with Standing on Solid Ground. You have yourself a wonderful and blessed day.